Captain Minho Kang stared at the screen in front of him. The distress signal was weak, but it was there. His ship, the Horizon's Promise, had picked it up 3 hours ago. Now they were close enough to see the source. The vessel ahead looked terrible. Its hull was damaged in dozens of places. Parts of it were held together with what looked like emergency patches. Some sections had no lights at all. Minho could see that this ship was barely holding together. "Captain, I'm getting life signs," said Lieutenant Hyun Lee from his station. "About 2,000 individuals. They're alive, but their power systems are failing." Minho nodded. "Yuna, what can you tell me about them?" Dr. Yuna Park looked up from her medical console. Her face was serious. "They're Villani, sir. Their biosigns are stable, but they're running low on supplies. Food, water, medical materials. They have maybe 2 weeks left, Villani." Ambassador Jiwoo Choi stood up from her seat. "Captain, we need to be careful. The Villani are under galactic quarantine. They're listed as genetically incompatible." Minho had heard of the Villani. Everyone had. 3 years ago, the Galactic Union had declared them dangerous. They said the Villani carried a plague that could spread to other species. Every port in Union space had closed to them. Every planet had rejected their request for asylum. "I'm aware, Ambassador," Minho said quietly, "but they're dying out there." Before anyone could respond, another voice came through the communication system. It was the Union station nearby, New Prospect Station. "Human Vessel Horizon's Promise, this is Station Commander Vrex. We detect you are approaching the quarantined vessel. You are ordered to maintain distance. Do not render aid. This is a direct violation of Treaty Article 47B. Minho closed his eyes for a moment. He thought about his training, about all the rules and regulations he had learned. Then he thought about 2,000 people dying slowly in the dark. "Station Commander Vrex, this is Captain Kang. We're responding to a distress signal. That's our legal obligation under space law." "Negative, Captain. The Villani quarantine supersedes rescue protocols. If you proceed, Earth will face sanctions. Your government will be notified." Jiwoo touched Minho's shoulder. "Captain, he's right. This could cause serious problems for Earth. The Union could cut our trade routes. We've only been members for 20 years. We can't afford to make enemies." Hyun looked at Minho. The young officer didn't say anything, but Minho could see the question in his eyes. Hyun's own family had been refugees once, fleeing a colony that had collapsed. Someone had helped them. Someone had broken the rules. "Yuna, if we bring them aboard, can you help them?" Minho asked. "I'd need to see them first, but yes, I believe so." "Captain, I've been reading the reports about the Villani plague. Something doesn't add up. The symptoms they describe don't match any known disease pattern." Minho made his decision. "Open a channel to the Villani ship." The screen flickered. An alien face appeared. She looked tired and sad, but there was still hope in her eyes. The Villani looked almost human in some ways, but their skin had a faint blue tint and their eyes were larger. "This is Elder Coordinator Thiel of the Forgotten Dawn," she said. Her voice was soft. "Are you here to help us?" "This is Captain Minho Kang of Earth's ship Horizon's Promise." "Yes, we're here to help. We're going to bring you aboard and give you supplies." Thiel's eyes filled with tears. "Captain, do you know what we are?" "Do you know what they say about us?" "I know what they say. I'm choosing not to believe it until I see proof myself." "Thank you," Thiel whispered. "You don't know what this means. We've been turned away from 47 ports. 47 times we've been told to leave, to die somewhere else." Over the next 6 hours, Minho's crew worked to transfer the Villani to the Horizon's Promise. The ship was crowded, but they made it work. The cargo bays became temporary living spaces. The medical bay filled up with Villani who needed treatment for malnutrition and injuries from failing life support. Yuna worked without stopping. She examined patient after patient, taking samples and running tests. Finally, after 8 hours, she came to the bridge. She looked excited and angry at the same time. "Captain, you need to see this," she said. "There is no plague." Minho turned to face her. "What? There is no plague? I've tested 200 Villani. They're completely healthy. Yes, they have a genetic mutation, but it's not dangerous. In fact, it's beneficial." "Explain," Jiwoo said, leaning forward. Yuna pulled up data on the main screen. "There's a neural parasite that affects most species in the Galactic Union. It's been around for so long that everyone thinks it's normal. It influences emotions and decision-making in subtle ways. The Villani mutation makes them completely immune to it." "Are you saying the Union lied?" Hyun asked. "I'm saying the Villani couldn't be controlled like other species, so they were removed." Yuna's voice was hard. This wasn't about safety. This was about power. Minho felt cold. He had always believed the Galactic Union stood for cooperation and peace. Now he was seeing something different. Jiwoo was already working at her console. "Captain, I'm pulling up records of other quarantined species. If Yuna is right, there should be a pattern." She worked in silence for several minutes. Then she stopped. "Oh no, Captain. In the last 300 years, the Union has quarantined 37 different species. Every single time it happened right after that species disagreed with the Union Council on something important." A message appeared on the screen. It was from Earth Command. Minho read it quickly. His superiors were ordering him to release the Villani immediately. The Union was threatening economic sanctions. Earth's government was afraid. Minho looked around his bridge. He saw Yuna, who had discovered the truth. He saw Hyun, who understood what it meant to be abandoned. He saw Jiwoo, who was already calculating the political cost. And on the screens around him, he saw 2,000 Villani who had nowhere else to go. "Send a message to Earth Command," Minho said. "Tell them we're keeping the Villani aboard. Tell them we're going to help them. And tell them I'm requesting permission to accept any other refugees who need us." "Captain, they'll relieve you of command," Jiwoo warned. "Maybe," Minho said. "But at least I'll be able to sleep at night." Thael appeared on another screen. She had been listening. "Captain Kang, why are you doing this? You barely know us," Minho thought about his answer. "Because someone has to. Because it's right. And because if humanity wants to be part of the galaxy, we need to be the part that chooses kindness over fear." That night, as the Horizon's Promise set course away from Union space, Minho stood in the observation deck. He watched the stars and wondered what would happen next. He had broken the rules. He had defied the most powerful government in the galaxy, and he would do it again. Behind him, he could hear Villani children laughing as they explored the ship. It was the first time they had laughed in 3 years. That sound, Minho thought, was worth any price. 3 weeks had passed since Minho took the Villani aboard. Word had spread faster than he expected. In the dark corners of the galaxy, where rejected species hid and survived, people were talking about the humans who had said no to the Union. The Horizon's Promise was no longer alone. 2 more ships had found them, following rumors and desperate hope. They carried refugees from species Minho had never heard of before. The first ship held the Kresh, beings made partly of silicon and crystal. They looked like living statues, beautiful and strange. Their leader, an elder named Court, explained that the Union had declared them structurally unstable. The real reason was simpler. The Kresh refused to let Union companies mine their mineral-rich homeworld. So the Union had found an excuse to remove them. The second ship carried the Pithril, an aquatic species that needed water tanks to survive. They had been labeled environmentally incompatible. But according to their representative, a scientist named Wes, they had actually been expelled for exposing corruption in the Union's Environmental Council. Minho's ship was now impossibly crowded. The cargo bays were full. The hallways had sleeping areas. Even the shuttle bay had been converted to living space. And still more ships were coming. "Captain, we have a problem," Hyun said during the morning briefing. "We're getting reports of a Union enforcement fleet heading our way. 12 warships." Jiwoo looked pale. "They're coming to take the refugees by force." Yuna shook her head. "We can't let that happen. I've been working with all 3 species. There's nothing wrong with any of them. The Union's claims are all lies." Minho stood and walked to the window. He could see the refugee ships outside, holding position near his vessel. Thousands of lives depended on his next decision. "How long until the Union fleet arrives?" he asked. 6 hours, Hyun replied. "Contact Earth Command. Tell them what's happening. And send a message to every news outlet in human space. I want everyone to know what's really going on here." Jiwoo looked worried. "Captain, Earth Command has already ordered you to surrender the refugees. If you disobey again, they'll court-martial you." "I know," Minho said quietly, "but I'm not going to hand these people over to die." The next few hours were chaos. Minho's message reached Earth and spread across human colonies. People saw the images of refugee children. They read Dr. Yuna's reports about the Union's lies. They learned that the powerful Galactic Union was systematically removing species that didn't obey. Humans had always been proud of their independence. They didn't like bullies, and the Union was starting to look like a very big bully. On Earth, protests started in major cities. People carried signs saying "Sanctuary for all" and "Not in our name." They demanded that their government support Captain Kang instead of abandoning him. Then something unexpected happened. Admiral Doyen Che, commander of Earth's 3rd Battle Group, sent a message. It was short and clear. "Captain Kang, reinforcements are on the way. Hold your position." 3 Earth battleships dropped out of faster-than-light travel 2 hours before the Union fleet arrived. They took up defensive positions around the Horizon's Promise and the refugee vessels. Admiral Doyen himself appeared on Minho's screen. "Captain Kang, I'm here to support you," Doyen said. His face was hard and determined. "My brother died in what the Union called a peacekeeping operation. I later learned it was a massacre of a species that refused to give up their resources. I won't let that happen again." "Thank you, Admiral," Minho said, feeling relief wash over him. When the Union fleet arrived, they found not a single Earth ship but 4, all with weapons armed and shields raised. The Union commander, a tall alien named Dreth, appeared on the communication channel. "Human vessels, you are interfering with Union law enforcement. Stand down immediately or face consequences." Admiral Doyen responded. "Commander Dreth, we are protecting refugees who have committed no crime. Your quarantine orders are based on false information. We have evidence that the Union has been lying about these species. You have no authority to question Union decisions." Dreth said coldly. "Surrender the refugees now." "No," Minho said simply. "We won't." Dreth's expression didn't change. "Then you choose war. The Union will destroy your ships and take the refugees anyway." "I don't think you will," Admiral Doyen said calmly. "You're 12 ships. Earth has 300 in range. If you fire on us, this becomes a war between Earth and the Union. Are you prepared for that?" There was a long silence. Minho could see Dreth calculating, weighing options. Finally, the Union commander spoke again. "This is not over. The Council will hear of this. Earth will pay for this defiance." The Union fleet turned and left. But Minho knew Dreth was right. This was far from over. That evening, Minho met with representatives from all the refugee species and the human officers. They gathered in the largest cargo bay which had been cleared for the meeting. "We can't keep running," Court of the Kresh said. His crystalline body reflected the lights. "More of our people will come. The Union will return with more ships. We need a permanent solution," Wes of the Pithril added. "A safe place where rejected species can go." Elder Thiel nodded. "But where? Every planet in Union space is closed to us." Minho had been thinking about this for days. What if we built something? Not on a planet, but in space. A station large enough to hold everyone who needs sanctuary. Jiwoo looked thoughtful. "We'd need resources, construction materials, time, and protection." "Earth can provide those things," Admiral Doyen said. "I've been in contact with our government. Public opinion has shifted. People support what you're doing, Captain. The Defense Council has authorized the construction of what they're calling Sanctuary Station." Yuna smiled. "A home for the rejected." "More than that," Minho said. "A symbol. A message to the galaxy that some things matter more than politics and power. That compassion isn't weakness." Over the next weeks, the project began. Earth sent construction ships and materials. Engineers from dozens of human colonies volunteered to help. But more importantly, humans started arriving as permanent residents. Teachers, doctors, farmers, artists. They came to help build the station and to live alongside the refugees. A young human engineer named Sumin Han formed a close friendship with Vess, a Vellani biomechanic. Together, they started designing hybrid technologies that combined human and Vellani innovations. The results were remarkable. New energy systems, better medical equipment, faster communication networks. But the Union wasn't idle. They began an economic war against Earth. Trade routes were restricted. Human ships were banned from 40% of Union space. Some human colonies that depended on trade started to suffer. On Earth, the government faced a crisis. The Council was divided. Half wanted to apologize to the Union and abandon Sanctuary Station. The other half, led by Defense Minister Minji Song, argued that humanity couldn't abandon its principles for profit. "If we give up now," Minji said during a broadcast that reached every human colony, "we're telling the galaxy that human compassion has a price, that will sacrifice the weak to make the powerful happy. I say no. I say we stand firm." The vote was close, but it passed. Earth would continue supporting Sanctuary Station. Minho watched the construction from the observation deck of the Horizon's Promise. The station was taking shape, a massive ring of metal and light in the darkness of space. Refugee ships kept arriving, bringing species Minho had never imagined existed. Each one had been rejected by the Union for reasons that had nothing to do with safety. "It's beautiful," Tyle said, standing beside him. "A home built on kindness." "It's just the beginning," Minho replied. "The Union won't let this stand. They'll come for us eventually. Then we'll be ready," Tyle said. "Together?" Minho nodded. He had started this by saving one ship. Now he was part of something much larger, something that might change the galaxy forever, or destroy it. Sanctuary Station was growing every day. What had started as a simple ring structure was now a complex city in space. Thousands of workers, human and alien alike, labored to expand it. The station had residential sections, medical facilities, schools, and even parks where different species could gather. Minho had moved his command to the station. He was no longer just a ship captain. He had become the coordinator of the entire sanctuary project, managing resources and protecting the growing population. The responsibility weighed on him, but he wasn't alone. More rejected species kept arriving. They came in small groups, sometimes just a single ship. Each one brought stories of rejection and survival. The Nesh were telepaths who could read surface thoughts. The Union had expelled them for mental intrusion, but the truth was different. The Nesh had accidentally discovered that Union Council members were hiding their real thoughts behind mental shields while manipulating others. The Korix came next, an insectoid species that shared a collective consciousness. They looked frightening to many humans, like giant ants standing upright, but they were gentle and brilliant. The Union had rejected them for individual suppression, claiming the hive mind violated personal freedom. The real reason was that the Korix had refused to separate their collective to make other species more comfortable. Then came the Lumens, beings made of pure energy who needed special containment fields to interact with matter. They had been declared incompatible with physical reality, but they had actually been expelled for discovering Union experiments with dangerous dark energy weapons. Each species brought unique skills. The Nesh could coordinate complex tasks through thought alone. The Korix could solve mathematical problems that would take others years to calculate. The Lumens understood energy in ways no one else did. Combined with human creativity and the other species' abilities, Sanctuary Station became a hub of innovation. Sumin Han, the young engineer, was having the time of her life. She worked with Vest the Villani on projects that seemed impossible. One day they invented a new type of shield that combined human technology with Kresh mineral structures. The next day they were designing better water recycling systems with the Pithral. "This is what the galaxy should be," Suman said one evening, sitting in the station's common area with Vess and a Nesh named Till. Different species working together, learning from each other. "The Union fears this," Till said, her telepathic voice gentle in their minds. "They want control. Cooperation threatens that control." Vess nodded, her blue-tinted skin reflecting the soft lights. "Which is why they will attack. The only question is when." They didn't have to wait long. 3 months after Sanctuary Station opened, the Union's propaganda campaign began. Every news outlet in Union space started broadcasting the same message. Humans were harboring criminals. The rejected species were genetic deviants and terrorists. Sanctuary Station was a threat to galactic peace and stability. Some of the claims were ridiculous. They said the Villani were breeding plague carriers. They claimed the Kresh were building weapons. They warned that the Nesh would mind control innocent citizens. None of it was true, but truth didn't matter in propaganda. The effects were immediate. More human colonies faced sanctions. Trade agreements were canceled. Ships carrying food and medicine to human worlds were turned away from Union ports. Some colonies began to starve. On Earth, protests erupted again, but this time they were different. Some humans were angry at the Union, but others were angry at their own government. They asked why Earth was sacrificing its well-being for aliens. They demanded that Sanctuary Station be closed. The pressure on Earth's government became intense. Ambassador Jiwoo, who had returned to Earth to represent the Sanctuary Project, faced hostile councils and angry citizens every day. "We're losing support," Jiwoo told Minho during a video call. "People are scared. Their families are going hungry because of Union sanctions. They're asking why we should suffer for species we barely know." Minho understood. He had seen the reports of food shortages on the outer colonies. Children going to bed hungry because supply ships couldn't get through. It was hard to ask people to sacrifice when the cost was so personal. "What do you think we should do?" Minho asked. Jiwoo was quiet for a moment. Part of me wants to say we should give up, save Earth from this economic war, but then I think about what we'd be teaching future generations. That principles only matter when they're convenient. That we abandon friends when helping them becomes difficult. So you think we should continue? I think we have to, Jiwoo said. Because if we stop now, the Union wins. They'll know they can control us through economic pressure, and every rejected species in the galaxy will know that human compassion has limits. Defense Minister Min Ji-song was fighting the same battle in the government chambers. She stood before the Earth Council defending Sanctuary Station while others demanded its closure. Yes, we are suffering, Minji said. Yes, this is costing us. But consider what we are gaining. We are learning technologies from dozens of species. We are building alliances based on mutual respect, not fear. And we are proving to ourselves and the galaxy that Earth stands for something more than profit. The debate went on for hours. Finally, a vote was called. Should Earth abandon Sanctuary Station and comply with Union demands? The council chamber was silent as votes were counted. Jiwoo watched from the gallery, hardly breathing. The result came in. The motion failed by 3 votes. Earth would continue supporting the sanctuary, but everyone knew this was temporary. The economic pressure would continue. Eventually, something would break. On Sanctuary Station, Minho was dealing with a different kind of pressure. The station's population had grown to 50,000. More arrived every week. They needed more space, more food, more resources, and Earth, struggling under Union sanctions, couldn't provide everything they needed. Minho called a meeting with representatives from all the species. They gathered in the council chamber, a circular room designed to give every species equal space. We need to become self-sufficient, Minho said. We can't keep depending on Earth for everything. We need to produce our own food, manufacture our own equipment, defend ourselves. How? Court of the Kresh asked. We have no planets, no natural resources except what Earth provides. We have something better, Yuna said. She had been working on this idea for weeks. We have knowledge from dozens of species. The Pithral can grow food in water systems. The Kresh can extract minerals from asteroids. The Nesh can coordinate complex farming. Humans can provide industrial infrastructure. If we combine what we all know, we can build a sustainable economy. The idea was ambitious, but it was possible. Over the next months, Sanctuary Station transformed. Asteroid mining operations began, led by Kresh engineers who could work in vacuum without suits. Massive hydroponic farms were built, designed by the Pithral and operated by human and Vellani farmers. The Korix created computational networks that could manage resources with incredible efficiency. The station became productive, not just surviving but thriving. Trade began with independent systems that weren't part of the Union. Sanctuary Station started selling advanced technology, medicine, and refined materials. Money flowed in, easing the burden on Earth, but success brought new dangers. The Union saw Sanctuary Station becoming powerful and independent. That was unacceptable. Admiral Doyen came to see Minho with troubling news. Our intelligence says the Union is assembling a massive fleet. 500 warships. They're calling it a peacekeeping force, but we know what it really is. An invasion fleet, Minho said. Yes. They're going to destroy the station and scatter the refugees. They'll make an example of us to ensure no one else defies Union authority. Minho looked out at the station spreading before him. 50,000 people lived here now. Families, children, elderly. All of them had nowhere else to go. How many ships can Earth send to help us? He asked. 50, Doyen said quietly. We have 50 ships that can reach here in time. 50 ships against 500. The math was brutal. We're going to lose, Minho said. Maybe, Doyen replied, unless we're smart about it. That night, Minho couldn't sleep. He walked through the station's corridors, seeing the life that had grown here. Vellani children playing with human kids, Kresh artisans teaching their craft, Pithral musicians performing for mixed audiences. This was what the galaxy could be, what it should be. He found Elder Thale in the observation deck looking at the stars. You're worried, she said. 500 ships are coming to destroy everything we've built. Thale smiled sadly. Then we fight. Not because we can win, but because this place is worth fighting for. Even if we lose? Especially if we lose. Because then the galaxy will see what the Union really is. They'll see what they destroyed. And maybe someday others will build something like this again. Minho stood beside her in silence, watching the stars and waiting for war. The Union fleet was 3 weeks away. Minho spent every waking hour preparing for the battle everyone knew they would lose. Admiral Doyen coordinated with Earth's military, positioning the 50 human warships in the best defensive formation possible. But everyone could do the math. 50 against 500 was suicide. Then something unexpected happened. A single small ship approached Sanctuary Station, broadcasting a distress code. It wasn't asking for rescue. It was asking for asylum. When the ship docked, a tall alien in a Union military uniform stepped out. Security teams surrounded him immediately, weapons ready. "My name is Commander Praxis," the alien said, raising his hands. "I'm an intelligence officer from the Talshek species. I'm defecting from the Union and I bring information you need." Minho met with Praxis in a secure room with Hyun and Yuna present. The alien looked tired and haunted. He placed a data device on the table. "This contains classified files from the Union Council archives," Praxis said. "Everything you suspected is true. The rejected species program is deliberate. For 300 years, the Union has been systematically removing species that threaten their power structure." Yuna connected the device to her computer. Files appeared on the screen, thousands of them. "Reports, communications, secret orders. Why are you doing this?" Minho asked. "Why betray your own government?" Praxis looked at him with sad eyes. "Because I have children, and I don't want them growing up in a galaxy built on lies and oppression. When I learned what the Council was really doing, I couldn't stay silent. Over the next hours, they went through the files. What they found was worse than they imagined. The neural parasite that Yuna had discovered wasn't natural at all. It had been engineered 500 years ago by the founding species of the Union as a control mechanism. Most species in the Union didn't even know they were being influenced. "The parasite affects decision-making," Yuna explained, reading the files with horror. "It doesn't control thoughts directly, but it makes species more agreeable, more willing to accept authority, more willing to ignore injustice." "And humans are naturally immune?" Minho asked. "Yes, so is every species on Sanctuary Station. That's why you were all rejected. You couldn't be controlled," Praxis nodded. "The Council has always been afraid of humanity. You're too independent, too unpredictable. They've kept you at the edges of Union politics, always watched, never fully trusted." Hyun looked at the data. "This is enough to expose the entire system. If we broadcast this, the galaxy will know the truth. The question is, will they believe it?" Chiwoo said. She had returned from Earth when news of the approaching fleet arrived. "The Union controls most media. They can call this propaganda." "Then we need more than data," Minho said. "We need proof they can see and feel," Yuna had been thinking. "I've been working on something. A treatment that can safely remove the neural parasites from willing subjects. If we could demonstrate it, show Union citizens what they've been missing, they might wake up." "How long would it take to prepare this treatment?" Admiral Doyun asked. "With help from the lumens and the Nesh, maybe a week. The lumens understand energy manipulation and the Nesh can help map the neural pathways safely." "Do it," Minho said. "We have 2 weeks until the Union fleet arrives. That gives us 1 week to test it." The next days were intense. Yuna worked with lumen energy specialists and Nesh telepaths to develop the treatment. It was risky. The parasites had been in Union species for so long that removing them could cause psychological shock. They needed a volunteer. Praxis offered himself. "I've suspected for years that something was affecting my judgment," he said. "Let me be the first." The procedure took 6 hours. Praxis lay in a special chamber, while lumen energy beings carefully mapped the neural parasite in his brain. Nesh telepaths monitored his thoughts, making sure the removal didn't cause damage. Yuna coordinated everything, her hands steady despite her fear. When it was over, Praxis opened his eyes. He looked around the room and tears started falling. "I can think clearly," he whispered. "For the first time in my life, my thoughts are completely my own. I never realized how much was being suppressed. Questions I should have asked, doubts I should have felt, anger I should have experienced at injustice." He sat up, looking at Minho. "They stole our free will. Not completely, but enough. Enough to make us compliant. Enough to make us accept terrible things as necessary. The treatment worked. Now they needed to share it with the galaxy." Minho called another meeting of all species representatives. The council chamber was full. Along with the usual members, there were now leaders from a dozen rejected species. What had started as a refugee shelter had become something new. An alliance of free peoples. "The Union fleet is coming," Minho said. "We can't defeat them in direct combat. But we can show the galaxy the truth. We can offer freedom to anyone who wants it. How? Court asked. Jiwoo stood. We broadcast everything. The files Praxis brought. The treatment unit developed. We tell the entire galaxy what the Union has been doing and offer a choice. Stay controlled or become free. The Union will call it propaganda, Wes of the Pithral said. Let them, Tyel replied. We'll have proof. Former Union officers like Praxis who can testify. Before and after scans showing the parasites. Scientific data they can't deny. And we make them an offer, Minho added. Any Union ship, any Union citizen who wants the treatment can have it. Free. No conditions. We just want them to have the choice. Admiral Doyen looked skeptical. You're assuming they'll listen. That fleet is coming to destroy us. They're not going to stop for a message. Maybe not, Minho said. But we have to try. This is bigger than just surviving. This is about changing the galaxy. Over the next week, they prepared. UNA trained teams from multiple species to administer the treatment. Engineers built transmission arrays powerful enough to broadcast across the entire sector. Writers from different species worked together to craft a message that would resonate with Union citizens. Suman and Vess created something special. A stealth coating that combined Villani biotech with lumen energy manipulation and Kresh mineral structures. It could hide a ship from most sensors. Not forever, but long enough. What's the plan? Hyun asked. Minho smiled grimly. We're going to make them think we're running, that we're evacuating Sanctuary Station. And when they relax, thinking they've won, we're going to hit them with the truth. The Union fleet arrived exactly on schedule. 500 massive warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. They were led by the same Commander Dreth who had confronted them months earlier. Human vessels and refugee craft. Dreth's voice boomed across all channels. You have been found in violation of Union law. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Minho opened a channel. Commander Dreth, we ask for negotiations. Give us time to evacuate civilians. You have 12 hours, Dreth replied. After that, any vessel in this system will be fired upon. Ships began leaving Sanctuary Station. Transports full of refugees heading away from the Union fleet. The 50 human warships fell back looking like they were preparing to retreat. On Union sensors, it appeared that the sanctuary was being abandoned. But it was a trick. The evacuating ships were coded in Suman and Vess's stealth technology. They weren't running. They were spreading out, surrounding the Union fleet at a distance. Each ship carried broadcast equipment and teams ready to administer the treatment. Minho watched the Union fleet from the station. They had relaxed their formation, believing victory was certain. That was the moment he had been waiting for. Now, he said quietly. Every ship, every station, every satellite in the system began broadcasting at once. The message went out on every frequency in every language. It included Praxis's testimony, the classified files, scientific evidence of the neural parasites, and demonstrations of the treatment. But most importantly, it included an offer. To every being in the Union fleet, Minho's voice said, you have been controlled without your knowledge. We can prove it. We can free you. Come to us. We will remove the parasites that have been suppressing your free will for generations. No conditions, no cost. We just want you to have the choice. On Union ships, crew members watched in shock as the evidence poured in. Some dismissed it immediately. The parasites in their brains pushed them to reject the message, to trust authority. But others felt something stir. Doubt. Curiosity. Anger at the possibility they'd been manipulated. On one Union destroyer, a young officer named Kess stared at the broadcast. She thought about all the times she'd accepted orders that felt wrong. All the questions she'd pushed down. All the doubts she'd ignored. She turned to her captain. Sir, request permission to investigate this claim. Her captain's face was hard. Absolutely not. This is enemy propaganda. But Kess noticed something. Other crew members were listening, watching, wondering. The parasites could suppress free will, but they couldn't eliminate it completely. And now, for the first time, thousands of Union crew members were being asked to choose. Commander Dreth stared at his command screen in fury. The human trick had worked perfectly. What he thought was a retreat was actually an encirclement. Worse, his own crew was wavering. He could see it in their eyes, hear it in their voices. The broadcast had planted seeds of doubt. All ships ignore the enemy propaganda, Dreth ordered. Prepare to open fire on the station. But before he could give the order to attack, something happened that no one expected. 3 Union destroyers broke formation. They turned away from Sanctuary Station and broadcast their own message. "This is Captain Kess of the destroyer Bright Justice. My crew and I are standing down. We want the treatment. We want to know if what you say is true." Dreth's face turned dark. "Captain Kess, return to formation immediately. That is an order." "No, Commander," Kess replied. Her voice was shaking but determined. "I'm making my own choice. For the first time in my life, I'm choosing what I believe is right." 2 more ships followed, then 5 more. Within an hour, 20 Union vessels had broken away and approached the sanctuary ships. Minho had teams ready. The lumens provided the energy manipulation. The Nesh guided the neural pathways. Yuna and her medical teams performed the procedures. The first Union crew members to receive the treatment emerged changed. Not different people, but more themselves. Free to think, to question, to choose. Many of them wept. Some were angry at what had been taken from them. All of them spread the word to their friends still on other ships. Dreth tried to maintain order, but it was falling apart. More ships were defecting every hour. Some of his own crew were requesting permission to get the treatment. He denied them, threatened them. But the desire for freedom is powerful once people know it exists. "Fire on the defecting ships," Dreth ordered his remaining loyal vessels. "They are traitors." But even his loyal crews hesitated. They were being ordered to kill their own people, friends who had simply asked for a medical procedure. That hesitation was enough. Before any shots were fired, Admiral Doyen's voice came across all channels. "Commander Dreth, if you fire on those ships, Earth will consider it an act of war, and you no longer have 500 ships. You have maybe 300, and that number is dropping every hour." Dreth looked at his tactical display. Doyen was right. Half his fleet was gone, either defecting or refusing orders. The humans hadn't fired a single shot, and they were winning. "This isn't over," Dreth said. "The Union Council will send more fleets. Bigger ones. You cannot stand against the entire Union." "Maybe not," Minho replied. "But we're not standing against the Union. We're offering freedom to anyone who wants it. There's a difference. Over the next 3 days, the Union fleet dissolved. Some ships left to report back to the Council. Others requested the treatment for their crews. A few attacked, trying to destroy the sanctuary ships. But they were quickly overwhelmed by former Union vessels now fighting alongside the humans. The biggest surprise came when Commander Dreth himself requested to come aboard Sanctuary Station. He came alone without weapons, looking defeated. "I want the treatment," he said to Minho. "I need to know if my loyalty was really mine or if it was programmed into me." After the procedure, Dreth sat in silence for hours. When he finally spoke, his voice was hollow. "I dedicated my life to the Union. I believed we were bringing order and peace to the galaxy. But it was all built on lies and control." "What will you do now?" Minho asked. Dreth looked at him. "Help you. The Council won't stop. They can't afford to. If this spreads, their entire system collapses. They'll send everything they have to destroy Sanctuary Station. Then we need to move faster," Jiwoo said. She had been working on the next phase. "We need to take this message to every Union world. Offer the treatment everywhere. Make it impossible for the Council to suppress." Over the following months, that's exactly what they did. Ships from Sanctuary Station, crewed by humans and freed Union citizens, traveled to worlds across the galaxy. They landed in public spaces and offered the treatment freely. They broadcast the truth about the neural parasites and showed people they had a choice. The response was overwhelming. Billions of beings wanted freedom. They wanted to know what their own thoughts felt like without suppression. Governments tried to stop it, but you can't stop an idea whose time has come. The Union Council tried to maintain control. They declared the treatment illegal. They sent military forces to arrest anyone administering it. But their own forces were defecting. Soldiers were getting the treatment and refusing to fight against people seeking freedom. 3 Union Council members tried to order a massive attack on Sanctuary Station using weapons that would destroy entire planets. But their own staff, now freed from the parasites, refused. Instead, they arrested the Council members and brought them to face justice. The Galactic Union didn't collapse all at once. It transformed slowly and painfully. New governments formed, based on actual consent instead of manipulation. Species that had been controlled for centuries started making their own decisions. Some made good choices. Some made mistakes. But they were free choices. Sanctuary Station became Sanctuary Prime, a massive space city that served as the center of a new alliance. The Free Alliance, they called it. It had one simple rule: cooperation must be voluntary. No species could force another to obey. Conflicts would be resolved through discussion and compromise, not control and threats. Minho stood in the observation deck of Sanctuary Prime, 50 years after he first picked up that distress signal from the Forgotten Dawn. He was old now, gray-haired and tired. But he was happy. The view before him was breathtaking. Sanctuary Prime had grown into something he never imagined. Towers and habitats spread in every direction, connected by bridges and transport tubes. Ships from hundreds of species came and went constantly, and in the distance he could see the planet below, where refugees had finally built permanent homes. His granddaughter, a girl named Hana, stood beside him. She was 7 years old, and her best friend was a young Villani girl. They had never known a galaxy where species were controlled or rejected. "Grandpa," Hana asked, tugging at his sleeve, "why did you help the Villani when everyone said not to?" Minho smiled and knelt down to her level. "Because sometimes the right thing to do is also the hard thing to do. And because home isn't just a place, it's a promise." "What kind of promise?" "A promise that says no matter who you are, no matter where you came from, you belong. You matter. You deserve freedom and kindness and hope." Hana thought about this. Did humanity keep that promise? "We tried our best," Minho said. "And we're still trying." A message appeared on his communication device. It was from Elder Thael, now ancient but still active in Alliance politics. She wanted to meet him for tea in the Remembrance Garden, the place where memorials honored those who had died seeking sanctuary. Minho took Hana's hand and they walked through the corridors of Sanctuary Prime. Everywhere they went, they saw the results of that first choice he made 50 years ago. Villani children playing with human kids, Kresh artisans teaching their crafts to students of every species, Pithril musicians performing for mixed audiences, Nesh teachers helping students understand complex mathematics, Korix engineers working alongside humans on impossible projects, Lumens creating beautiful light sculptures that everyone could enjoy. In the Remembrance Garden, Thael waited beside a fountain. She looked old and frail, but her eyes were still bright. They sat together in silence for a while, watching the water and remembering. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had followed orders that day?" Thael asked. "If you had left us to die?" "Sometimes," Minho admitted. "But then I look around and see this. Billions of people living free, making their own choices. I think about all the species that would still be controlled if someone hadn't said no to the Union." "You changed the galaxy," Thael said softly. "We changed the galaxy," Minho corrected. "Humans, Villani, Kresh, Pithril, and everyone else who chose courage over fear." "It was never just me," Thael smiled. "True, but you were the first. You made the choice that started everything." That evening there was a celebration in the Central Plaza. It was the anniversary of Sanctuary Station's founding, now a holiday across the Free Alliance. People from hundreds of species gathered to celebrate diversity, freedom, and the simple act of welcoming others. Minho stood on a stage, asked to say a few words. He looked out at the massive crowd, seeing faces of every imaginable kind. Some had skin, some had scales, some had fur. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some were solid, others energy. But all of them were free. All of them belonged. 50 years ago, Minho said, his voice amplified across the plaza. The galaxy rejected the Villani. They said these people were dangerous, incompatible, wrong. But humanity looked at them and saw what they really were. People who needed help. So we helped. Not because it was easy. Not because it was profitable. But because it was right. The crowd was silent, listening. The galaxy rejected them, Minho continued. But humanity welcomed them home. And in doing so, we learned something important. Home isn't about where you were born or what species you are. Home is about being accepted for who you are. Home is about having the freedom to make your own choices. Home is about belonging. He paused, looking at the faces before him. Today, billions of beings,